I was sitting in my home office in Seattle, reviewing quarterly investment reports, when I heard my sister Linda's voice drift through the phone speaker I'd accidentally left on. "Mom's really declining now, Patricia. Memory's going fast. We need to act before she gets scammed by one of those telemarketer schemes." My blood turned to ice. Not because of concern for our mother, but because I knew exactly what Linda was really talking about. You see, I'm not Patricia, their financial advisor. I'm Charlotte, and Linda had no idea I was on that three-way call. "How much are we talking?" Patricia asked, her voice clinical and detached. $1.4 million, give or take. The house in Bellevue alone is worth $800,000. Then there's the investment accounts, the retirement funds. Charlotte set everything up when she sold her tech consulting firm 3 years ago. My hands gripped the edge of my desk. They were discussing my estate, my money, my property. "And she made you power of attorney?" Patricia's voice held a note of satisfaction. 2 years ago, when Mom had that health scare, Charlotte wanted someone local to handle things if Mom couldn't make decisions. She lives right here in Seattle, but she travels for consulting work. She thought it made sense. Linda laughed. Actually laughed. "She has no idea I can access everything once we get Mom declared incompetent." Before we go any further, let me introduce myself properly. I'm Charlotte. I'm 68 years old, and I'm watching this from my home office in Seattle, Washington. I'd love to know, where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments. Now, let me tell you how I got here, because this story doesn't start with that phone call. It starts 3 years earlier, when I sold the technology consulting firm I'd built from nothing over 32 years. I was 55 when I started that company in 1992, fresh out of a divorce, 2 kids in college, and absolutely determined never to depend on anyone again. I worked 70-hour weeks, missed dance recitals and soccer games, built relationships with Fortune 500 companies, and slowly, painfully grew that business into something substantial. By 2022, I was 65 and ready to retire. A larger consulting firm made an offer I couldn't refuse. After taxes and paying off the business debts, I walked away with $1.4 million. Not generational wealth, but enough to ensure a comfortable retirement, help my kids with their own lives, and maybe leave something behind. I was careful with that money. I bought a modest house in Bellevue, 3 bedrooms, nothing extravagant, for $800,000. The rest went into diversified investments, index funds, bonds, some dividend-paying stocks. Conservative, smart, designed to last me through retirement with enough left over to help my children, Emma and Jacob, when they needed it. My mother, Helen, was 78 then, and still living independently in her own home in Spokane. She'd always been sharp as a tack, managing her own modest finances, volunteering at the library, active in her book club. But that year, she had a minor stroke, nothing catastrophic, but enough to scare us all. That's when I made the decision that would nearly cost me everything. I asked Linda, my younger sister by 6 years, to be Mom's power of attorney. Linda lived in Spokane, just 15 minutes from Mom. She was a real estate agent, successful enough, married to a dentist named Robert, 2 kids in their 20s. On the surface, she seemed like the logical choice. I traveled frequently for consulting work even after the sale, helping with transition projects. Linda was local, available, and I trusted her. God, I was naive. I never made Linda power of attorney over my estate. That's crucial to understand. She had authority only over Mom's affairs, her medical decisions, her finances, her property. My estate was completely separate, protected by my own legal documents with my attorney, Gregory Chen, as executor. But here's what I didn't know. Linda had been working on Mom for 2 years. "Charlotte's so busy," she'd tell Mom during her visits. "Always traveling, always working. What if something happens to you and she's in California or New York? What if you need someone right away?" Mom, whose memory was indeed starting to slip after the stroke, began to worry, and Linda was there, helpful and concerned, suggesting that maybe, just maybe, Charlotte should add Linda as a backup on her accounts. "Just in case, Mom, just to make sure someone local can help if Charlotte's unreachable." I learned all this later. At the time, I thought Linda was being a devoted daughter, visiting Mom 3 times a week, taking her to doctor's appointments, organizing her medications. On that September afternoon when I overheard the call, I'd been on the line with Patricia, whom I'd hired 5 years earlier to manage Mom's growing medical expenses and investment portfolio. We'd been discussing Mom's required minimum distributions from her retirement account when Patricia said, Hold on, Charlotte. I'm getting a call from Linda. Let me add her to the line. She had questions about Helen's Medicare statements. I said, sure, and waited. What I should have done was announce my presence when Linda joined the call. What I did instead was stay silent when Patricia greeted Linda, and they immediately launched into their conspiracy, apparently forgetting or not realizing I was still connected. The key is the competency evaluation, Patricia was saying. I know a geriatric psychiatrist who's very understanding about these assessments. Once we have documentation that Helen can't manage her affairs, the court will support the POA decisions. And since Charlotte designated you as Helen's POA, you'll have the authority to make decisions about Helen's care. But Charlotte's estate is separate, Linda said. How does that help us? Helen lives with Charlotte now, doesn't she? Has for the past 8 months. My mother had moved in with me that January after a bad fall in her Spokane home. She was in the guest suite, still independent but safer with me nearby. Yes, Linda confirmed. Charlotte converted her main floor study into a bedroom for her. Perfect. So Helen's living expenses, her care, her medical needs, all of that comes from somewhere. And Charlotte's been paying for it, correct? I assume so. Mom's Social Security doesn't cover much. Exactly. So, here's what we do. I sat there, perfectly still, as Patricia laid out a plan to systematically drain my estate under the guise of Mom's care expenses. Patricia's voice took on a teaching tone, like she was explaining a simple financial strategy to a client. Washington is a community property state with strong filial responsibility laws. If Helen needs nursing care or specialized medical treatment, those costs can legally be drawn from family resources. Charlotte, as the daughter providing housing, has assumed financial responsibility. But Charlotte would have to agree to those expenses, Linda objected. Not if Helen is deemed incompetent and you're her POA making medical decisions on her behalf. You authorize the treatment and the bills go to Helen's responsible party, Charlotte. We make sure Helen's own accounts are strategically depleted first, of course. Medical expenses, home care services, specialized equipment, all legitimate, all documented. My stomach churned as I listened. Once Helen's resources are exhausted, Charlotte becomes financially responsible as the primary caregiver. We can push for specialized memory care facilities. The nice ones run $30,000 a month in Seattle. Insurance covers some, but not all. Charlotte will feel obligated to pay the difference. $30,000 a month? Linda's voice held barely concealed greed. That would drain her accounts in, 4 years? 3, maybe less once you factor in the property. Here's the beautiful part. You convince Charlotte that Helen's house in Spokane should be sold to fund her care. Market's strong right now. Should get $400,000, maybe $450,000. That money goes into a trust for Helen's care expenses. But you're the trustee as POA. The silence on the line was heavy. Then Linda asked the question that turned my blood cold. And when Mom dies, anything left in the trust goes to her estate, divided according to her will. But here's the thing, there won't be much left. Those care facilities are expensive. The trust will be depleted within a few years. Meanwhile, Charlotte's own resources are being drained to cover the gaps. Her retirement accounts, her investment funds, eventually the Bellevue house, if she needs to access that equity. Jesus, Linda breathed. And this is all legal? Completely. You're making medical decisions in Helen's best interest as her POA. The financial consequences aren't your responsibility, they're Charlotte's, as the primary family caregiver who chose to house Helen rather than place her in care immediately. Every decision you make will be defensible as prioritizing Helen's health and comfort. What about Charlotte's own POA situation? She must have her own documents. Doesn't matter. Those govern her estate if she becomes incapacitated. But she's 68 and healthy. That's years away. By the time she might need those protections, her resources will be significantly diminished. And here's the bonus. You'll be in a perfect position to be named her POA too. Since you're local and already handling family medical matters, sisters trust each other, right? That laugh again. That cold, calculating laugh from my own sister. How long do we have? Linda asked. Helen's decline is accelerating. I'd say we have a 6-month window before Charlotte starts asking serious questions about why Mom's care is so expensive. But we need to move now. I'll set up the competency evaluation for next month. You start documenting Helen's confusion, missed medications, any signs of declining judgment. I can do that. Robert's on board. He thinks we're protecting Mom from Charlotte's financial influence. My brother-in-law, even him. One more thing, Patricia added. You mentioned Charlotte travels for consulting work. When's her next trip? She has a conference in Austin next month. 4 days. Perfect. That's when we'll do the evaluation. Helen will be confused. Charlotte won't be there to advocate, and we'll have our documentation. I'll file the papers with the court by the end of that week. Once the competency ruling is in place, you'll have full authority. And Charlotte won't be able to stop it? She can try to contest it, but that takes months and legal fees she won't want to spend. Most people just accept it once there's a court order. By the time she realizes the financial implications, it'll be too late. The call ended. I sat in my office chair staring at my investment portfolio spreadsheet and felt 32 years of hard work, sacrifice, and careful planning hanging by a thread. Most people would have panicked, called the police, confronted Linda immediately, screamed and cried and burned bridges. But I didn't build a successful consulting firm by reacting emotionally to crises. I built it by staying calm, gathering information, and outmaneuvering my competition. My sister and her advisor had no idea who they were dealing with. I saved that phone conversation. My office system automatically records calls for note-taking purposes, perfectly legal in Washington, a two-party consent state. When one party, me, consents to the recording, I had every word of their conspiracy documented. Then I called Gregory Chen, my attorney. Gregory and I went back 15 years. He'd handled my divorce, the incorporation of my consulting firm, the sale of that business, and the establishment of my estate documents. He was 72, sharp as ever, and deeply principled. Gregory, I need to see you today. It's urgent, and I need you to bring all my estate documents, especially anything related to power of attorney. 2 hours later, I sat in his downtown Seattle office, playing him the recording. His face went gray. Charlotte, this is elder financial abuse, conspiracy to commit fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty. Patricia could lose her license. Linda could face criminal charges. I know, but I need to protect myself first, and Mom second. What are my options? Gregory pulled out my files. First, Linda has zero authority over your estate. None. She's only POA for Helen's affairs. But Patricia's strategy is insidious. They're planning to use Helen's situation to drain your resources indirectly. Can they succeed? He hesitated. Legally? No. But practically, they can create a nightmare. Court battles over Helen's care, accusations that you're neglecting her, public scrutiny of your finances. Even if you win, the legal fees and stress could be devastating. So we need to prevent it from ever getting that far. Exactly. Here's what I recommend. Over the next 3 hours, Gregory and I built a counterplan. It was methodical, legally bulletproof, and completely devastating to Linda's scheme. First, we immediately revoked Linda's power of attorney over Mom's affairs. Gregory drafted new documents naming me as Mom's POA and healthcare proxy. We scheduled a competency evaluation with a geriatric specialist, not Patricia's corrupt doctor, but Dr. Sarah Martinez, one of the most respected elder care physicians in Seattle. Second, we filed legal notice with all of Mom's financial institutions that Linda no longer had any authority. Third, and most importantly, we restructured my entire estate. Gregory created an irrevocable trust, transferring my house and investment accounts into a protected structure that couldn't be touched by long-term care expenses or legal judgments. My children, Emma and Jacob, were named as trustees, with Gregory as the independent professional trustee. Even if someone tried to claim I was financially responsible for Mom's care, they couldn't access the trust assets. This is aggressive, Gregory warned. Once these assets are in the irrevocable trust, even you can't access them without trustee approval. I trust Emma and Jacob completely, and I trust you. Do it. We worked through the weekend. By Monday morning, my entire estate was locked down tighter than Fort Knox. The Bellevue house, trust property, the investment accounts, trust property. My checking account held exactly enough for 6 months of living expenses. Everything else was untouchable. Then came the hard part, talking to Mom. Mom had good days and bad days. Her short-term memory was definitely declining, but her long-term memory remained sharp. I waited for a good morning, made her favorite breakfast, blueberry pancakes and bacon, and sat down with her in the sunny breakfast nook. Mom, I need to talk to you about something important, about Linda. Her expression shifted. Is she okay? She's fine. But I need to ask you something. Has Linda been talking to you about managing your finances? Or mine? Mom's eyes clouded with confusion. She says I need to be careful, that I might make mistakes with my money. But Charlotte, I've been managing money since before you were born. I know, Mom. I know you have. Has she asked you to sign any papers? A long pause, then quietly, she brought papers last month. Said they were just formalities to make sure everything was organized if I got sick again. I signed them, but I don't remember what they said. My heart sank. What kind of papers? I don't know. She said not to worry about it. But Charlotte, Mom reached across the table and gripped my hand. I'm not stupid. I can feel my memory going. Some days I can't remember if I took my pills, but I know when someone's treating me like a child. I squeezed her hand back. Mom, I'm going to fix this, but I need you to do something for me. Dr. Martinez is going to come visit tomorrow. She's going to ask you some questions about your memory, your daily routine. I need you to answer honestly, okay? Don't pretend you remember things if you don't. Am I in trouble? No, Mom, not even a little bit. But I need documentation showing that you're aware of your situation and capable of making informed decisions about your care. Can you do that? She nodded, and I saw a flash of the strong, independent woman who'd raised 3 daughters while working full-time as a teacher. Linda's planning something, isn't she? Yes, I thought so. She visits too much, asks too many questions. Mom's voice hardened. I'm not senile, Charlotte, not yet. Maybe not ever. Don't let her take advantage of me. I won't, Mom. I promise. Dr. Martinez arrived the next morning at 10. She was 53, warm but professional, and she spent 3 hours with Mom. I stayed in the room the entire time, taking notes. The evaluation was thorough. Memory tests, cognitive assessments, questions about daily living activities. Mom struggled with some of the short-term memory exercises. Couldn't remember what she'd eaten for breakfast. Got confused about what day it was. But when Dr. Martinez asked about her finances, her children, her understanding of her medical situation, Mom was crystal clear. I have 3 daughters, Mom said firmly. Charlotte is my eldest. She takes care of me now. Linda is my middle daughter. She's the one I need to talk to you about. Dr. Martinez's pen paused over her notepad. Oh, why is that? Because she's been treating me like I'm already gone, coming over with papers to sign, talking about me like I'm not in the room. I may forget what I had for breakfast, but I know when someone's circling like a vulture. I had to suppress a smile. Dr. Martinez's report, delivered 3 days later, was exactly what I needed. Yes, Mom showed signs of mild cognitive decline, typical for her age and consistent with her stroke history. No, she was not incompetent. She understood her medical situation, could articulate her wishes clearly, and showed good judgment in her decision-making. She would need support with daily activities and medication management, but she retained full capacity for legal and financial decisions. Charlotte, Dr. Martinez said when she handed me the report, your mother is declining, but slowly. She has years of competent life ahead of her. What she needs is support, not replacement. Thank you. That's exactly what I needed to hear. Armed with Dr. Martinez's evaluation, Gregory filed the new POA documents with the court. I sent certified letters to all of Mom's financial institutions, doctors, and care providers. Linda's authority was officially revoked. Then I waited. If you've been watching this far and finding this story as infuriating as I did living through it, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button below. I share stories like this because I know so many of you have dealt with similar family betrayals, and you need to know you're not alone. Now back to what happened next. Linda called me 3 days later. Her voice was tight, controlled. Charlotte, I got a very strange letter from Mom's bank. They said my POA authorization has been revoked. There must be some mistake. No mistake, Linda. I revoked it. Silence. Then, why would you do that? Because you don't need it anymore. I'm managing Mom's affairs directly now. She's living with me. I'm here every day, and it doesn't make sense to have someone 2 hours away handling her paperwork. But I thought, you travel so much. I was trying to help. I appreciate that, but I've cut back on travel. Mom's my priority now. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line. She was calculating, trying to figure out what I knew. Can we meet? She finally asked. I have some concerns about Mom's care that I'd like to discuss in person. Of course. Why don't you come to Seattle this weekend? Perfect. I'll bring Robert. We can all talk. Linda arrived that Saturday afternoon with Robert in a leather portfolio that practically screamed legal documents. They sat in my living room, Linda on the sofa, Robert in the armchair, both of them wearing what I thought of as their serious faces. Mom was upstairs taking her afternoon nap. I'd planned it that way. Charlotte, we're worried about you, Linda began. Taking care of Mom full-time is a huge responsibility. Robert and I have been discussing it, and we think it might be time to look at professional care options. Professional care? Mom's fine here. She has her own suite. She's comfortable. But you're 68, Linda interrupted. What happens when you can't handle it anymore? What happens when she needs round-the-clock care? Those memory care facilities are expensive, but they're equipped for this. I'm not putting Mom in a home. Linda exchanged a look with Robert. He cleared his throat. Charlotte, we've been doing research. There's an excellent facility in Spokane. They have specialized dementia care, 24-hour nursing, activities designed for cognitive support. Mom doesn't have dementia. Not yet, Linda said carefully, but it's coming. We've all seen the decline, and these places have waiting lists. We need to act now to secure a spot. How much does this place cost? $32,000 a month, Robert said. But they have excellent reviews. $32,000 a month. I let that hang in the air. And who would pay for this? Well, Mom's house in Spokane is just sitting there. We could sell it, use that money for her care. Mom's house is worth maybe $450,000. That's 14 months of care. Then what? Then we look at other options. Your house has significant equity. Stop right there. My voice went cold. You want to sell Mom's house to put her in a facility she doesn't need? Burn through that money in barely a year, and then start liquidating my assets. Is that the plan? Linda's face flushed. We're trying to protect Mom. No, you're trying to protect yourself from having to actually care for her. And you're planning to use my money to do it. That's not fair, Linda protested. Robert and I have our own financial obligations. You can't afford to contribute to Mom's care, but you can afford to make decisions that will cost me my retirement? How does that work? Robert stood up. Charlotte, you're being unreasonable. Linda is just trying to... I know exactly what Linda is trying to do. I heard her. I pulled out my phone and played the recording. Linda's voice filled my living room. 1.4 million, give or take. Charlotte has no idea I can access everything once we get Mom declared incompetent. I watched the color drain from both their faces as the recording played. Patricia's voice laid out their entire scheme, the corrupt competency evaluation, the strategic depletion of Mom's assets, the plan to drain my estate under the guise of care expenses. When it ended, the silence was absolute. That's illegal, Linda whispered. You can't record people without their consent. Washington is a two-party consent state, I agreed. Good thing I was one of the two parties on that call. I consented. Linda's face went from white to red. You set me up. You deliberately stayed silent on that call. Patricia added you to a call I was already on. I didn't announce my presence, true, but I didn't set anything up. You and your advisor conspired to defraud me, all on your own initiative. Robert's legal mind was working. Even if that recording is admissible, you can't prove we intended to actually go through with it. It was just talk, discussing options. Is that what you're going with? Just talk? I pulled out another folder. Let's discuss the papers Mom signed last month, the ones Linda told her not to worry about. I spread the documents on the coffee table. Linda had been busy. She'd had Mom sign documents designating Linda as secondary account holder on Mom's savings account, giving Linda the right to make withdrawals without Mom's approval. She'd also had Mom sign a preliminary agreement for the sale of the Spokane house, with Linda listed as the selling agent and Robert's brother, conveniently a real estate attorney, as the closing agent. These documents were signed when Mom was having a bad memory day, I continued. Dr. Martinez's evaluation confirms that Mom's competency fluctuates. On her bad days, she can't remember what she's signing. Having her sign legal documents during those periods, that's elder abuse. You can't prove... I can prove everything. Dr. Martinez documented Mom's condition. I have the recording of your conspiracy. I have these fraudulent documents, and I have Gregory Chen prepared to file a complaint with the State Bar Association against Patricia for breach of fiduciary duty. Linda stood up abruptly. You can't do this. I'm your sister. You were my sister. Past tense. You stopped being my sister when you decided to steal my life's work. I wasn't stealing. You were conspiring to systematically drain my retirement assets under the pretense of Mom's care. You were planning to force her into an expensive facility she doesn't need, liquidate her house, and then come after my estate. That's not caregiving, Linda. That's theft. The family will never forgive you for this, Robert said quietly. Linda's kids, your kids, everyone will know you chose money over family. Really? Should we ask Emma and Jacob what they think? I pulled out my phone again. They're both trustees of my estate now. They've heard the recording. Emma actually suggested I pursue criminal charges. Jacob wanted to come down here and throw you both out physically. I leaned forward. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave my house. You're going to stay away from Mom. You're going to drop any and all claims to any involvement in her care or finances. And most importantly, you're never going to contact me again unless it's through an attorney. And if we don't, Linda's voice shook. Then I file everything with the police, the Bar Association, and the Adult Protective Services. Patricia loses her license and possibly faces criminal charges. You face charges for elder financial abuse and fraud. Robert gets dragged into it as a co-conspirator. Your real estate license gets reviewed. Your reputation in Spokane, where everyone knows everyone, gets destroyed. I stood up and walked to the door, opening it. Or you leave now, and we never speak of this again. Your choice. They left. Linda grabbed her portfolio of useless documents. Robert followed without a word, and they drove away in their luxury SUV that they'd probably planned to upgrade once they got their hands on Mom's money. I stood at the window watching them go, feeling nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, no grief, just empty. Mom appeared at the top of the stairs. Are they gone? Yes, Mom, they're gone. She came down slowly, holding the railing. I heard some of it, not all, but enough. I'm sorry you had to hear any of it. Don't be sorry. She sat down heavily on the sofa Linda had just vacated. I raised 3 daughters. I thought I raised them better than that. But Linda, she was always the one who wanted more. Wanted what her sisters had. When your consulting firm did well, she resented it. Said you were lucky. Didn't see the years of work. Mom, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Because my memory's going, Charlotte. And I need to say this while I still can. I'm proud of you. Proud of what you built. Proud of how you're handling this. And I'm sorry I didn't see what Linda was doing earlier. I sat down next to her. None of this is your fault. Maybe not, but I signed those papers. I was weak, confused. I made it possible. You were recovering from a stroke and dealing with memory issues. She took advantage of that. That's on her, not you. We sat in silence for a while. Then Mom said something that broke my heart. I won't remember this tomorrow, will I? This conversation. I'll wake up and wonder why Linda doesn't visit anymore. Maybe, but I'll remind you, as many times as it takes. Promise me something. When it gets bad, when I really can't remember anything, don't put me in one of those expensive places Linda wanted. Use my house money if you need to, but keep me here. Or find somewhere affordable. Don't waste your retirement on my decline. Mom, promise me, Charlotte. I mean it. I've lived a good life. I don't need fancy memory care. I need my daughter. That's all. I promised. Over the next month, I sold Mom's house in Spokane. She was right. It sold for $450,000. That money went into a dedicated trust for her care expenses, separate from my estate, with Emma as the trustee. If and when Mom needed professional care, that money would cover it. My retirement was protected. Patricia called me once, 2 weeks after the confrontation. Charlotte, I want to apologize. Call Gregory Chen. If you have anything to say, you say it to my attorney. If you contact me directly again, I'm filing a formal complaint. She hung up. I never heard from her again. I did hear, through the professional grapevine, that she suddenly decided to take early retirement. Her advisory practice was quietly sold to another firm. Linda and Robert sent a certified letter through their attorney 6 weeks later. It was full of legal language that basically said, "We acknowledge all POA authority has been transferred to Charlotte. We make no claims on Helen's or Charlotte's estates, and we agree to no contact except through legal counsel." I signed it and sent it back. That was 7 months ago. Mom is still living with me. Her decline has been slower than we expected. Turns out the stress of Linda's manipulation was making her symptoms worse. Once that ended, her cognitive function actually stabilized. She has physical therapy twice a week. We do memory exercises together, and Dr. Martinez visits monthly for checkups. She still has bad days. Days when she forgets my name, forgets where she is, gets confused about whether she already ate breakfast, but she also has good days. Days when she beats me at Scrabble, when she tells me stories from her childhood with perfect clarity, when she laughs at terrible television shows and makes sarcastic comments about the plot holes. Emma visits from Portland every few weeks. Jacob calls from San Diego every Sunday. They both know the whole story. Emma actually wanted to post about it on social media to warn others about elder financial abuse. I talked her out of it, not because I'm protecting Linda, but because Mom doesn't need her situation broadcast to the world. My retirement is secure. The irrevocable trust protects my assets while still allowing me enough income to live comfortably. The Bellevue house is safe. My investment accounts continue to grow. I still do some consulting work, not because I need the money, but because I like staying sharp. I haven't seen or spoken to Linda in 7 months. I don't miss her. She made her choice. I made mine. My youngest sister, Sarah, stayed out of the whole situation. She lives in Florida with her husband and works as a nurse. She called me after she heard what happened, Linda's version first, then mine. I sent her the recording. She listened to it once, said, "Jesus Christ, what was Linda thinking?" And that was that. She visits Mom twice a year and stays carefully neutral. Last month, I received a letter from Linda's daughter, my niece Rachel. She's 26, working on her master's degree in social work. The letter was short. "Aunt Charlotte, I don't know all the details of what happened between you and my mom. She won't talk about it, and I've learned not to push. But I wanted you to know that I understand family isn't always fair, and that sometimes the hardest thing to do is protect yourself from people who should be protecting you. I love my mom, but I don't think she's always right. I hope you and Grandma Helen are doing well. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. Rachel." I kept that letter. It sits on my desk, a small reminder that sometimes the next generation turns out better than the one before. My estate is protected. Mom is safe. The people who tried to steal from me failed. That's not a happy ending. There's too much sadness in how we got here for that, but it's a just ending. Sometimes that's all you can ask for. I'm Charlotte. I'm 68 years old. I built a life, protected it when it was threatened, and I'm still standing. That's my story. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves and watch out for the people who are supposed to be watching out for you.